All right, everyone, we will start in about 1 minute.
Hey, Jarvis, it's good to see you.
Oh, good to see you also, Kevin.
Jarvis, blast from the past from your days in Brooklyn. Good seeing you.
How you doing?
I'm doing well. How
Yes,
are
sir.
you?
I do miss Brooklyn. I don't miss Brooklyn, and I miss Brooklyn at the same
I hear you. I'm sure you don't miss those housing
time.
prices these days.
I don't. Right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. My name is Jarvis Houston. I'm with BlackTravelCo, and we're here to talk about all things Colombia. The main thing we'll talk about buying property in Colombia. We have some great experts on the call. Lyda, who is my attorney, who helped me purchase my first piece of property in Colombia. We have Alyssa, who owns a company that helps people helps people like myself and everyone on this call purchase property in Colombia. Sometimes people think it's a foreign country. I don't know Spanish. I saw Narcos on Netflix. I don't know what I'm gonna do. Colombia is not Narcos on Netflix. That was 20 years ago. That was the Cosby era. That was the 90s. That was a long time ago. Colombia is a thriving city with beautiful cities such as Cartagena, Medellin, Cali, and Bogota. Bogota is like New York City. Cali is like Atlanta. Medellin is like Chicago. And Cartagena is like Miami with a little bit of Los Angeles. I purchased my first piece of property in Colombia. You can't believe me. $40,000. I purposely purchased the property in the gentrified neighborhood. $40,000 cash. My name is on the deed. I own the property outright. I don't owe a bank. I don't owe anyone. I own the property. But first, when I started to work, started to look for property, I had to follow some steps first. Before you do anything else in a foreign country, you have to do research. That's extremely important. So Lyda was my attorney. The first thing I did before I started to look at property, I found an attorney that's bilingual, and that's Lyda. And when you are in a foreign country, even if you're in the United States, and you purchase property, for the most part, you're going to have an attorney. So if you're in a foreign country, of course, of course, you need to hire an attorney. So I'm going to do a brief welcome, talk about my experience. Mareco, who's one of my frat brothers from Howard University, he's going to talk about his experience. Lydia is going to talk about the legal part, best practices. Mateo from Acciones and Valores, which is like Colombia's version of Charles Schwab. He'll talk to you about something extremely important. How do you transfer $40,000, $200,000, $250,000, $500,000 to Colombia and do it to give you the best exchange rate? So Mateo is going to run you through that part, and Alicia is going to talk to everyone just about her company, what she does. She helps people purchase property and identify property in Medellin and Cartagena all over the country. Also, Alyssa and Marika, they own boats. So we're not going to get into purchasing yachts and boats. We're not talking about that now. We're talking about purchasing property. In Colombia, Cartagena, Medellin, these are very hot cities. A lot of people like visiting Cartagena and Medellin. I have people that purchase property, they live in their property. I have people that have Airbnb, and they make and they if it's 30 days, they have someone in their Airbnb 25 days out of 30 days. So again, it depends on the person. It depends on your marketing program, and it also depends on how long will you be in Colombia. Do you plan on just having a property, be here 6 months out the year? Do you plan to pay somebody to pay a group or pay a person or pay a company to manage your property? So again, after you purchase your property, you also still need to have a business plan on eventually selling your property 20 years from now or 10 years from now. But at the same time, will it be Airbnb? Will it be month to month? How will I get my partner? The right partner like Marico got him. depends on the person. So we're gonna walk you through the legal part. We're gonna walk everyone through the legal part. We're gonna walk everyone through the best practices. But number one, we're gonna make sure that everyone understands the process completely of purchasing property in Colombia. Again, I purchased my property in the gentrified area. My property is 2 bedrooms. I have some of the best views you'll ever see. I can see the mountains, I can see the ocean, and I can see the city. What place in the world that you can look at the mountains, you can look at the ocean, and you can look at the city in one 360 view? Not too many places, but you can't do that in Colombia. For another, if you did in the United States, my apartment probably would be $2 million based on a property or $1 million. It just depends, especially in New York City. So again, we're really excited to have everyone on the call. I'm going to let Lyda talk to you more about the process, get into the best practices. So without further ado, my attorney, a great property attorney, she's bilingual, she lived in New York. Without further ado, Lyda. You're on mute, Lyda.
Okay. Hi, Jarvis. How are you doing? And good afternoon, everyone. So very excited to be here again, talking about what to do and what not to do when you buy properties in Colombia. And I just want to explain, I'm an attorney licensed in Cartagena. And I specialize in real estate and immigration for foreigners here in Colombia. So I have a broad experience in this type of issues. So basically, what I want to talk today is like the basic things that people should do when you want to buy a property here in Colombia. The first thing, as you mentioned, first you need to find the property. And then some buyers will talk about how to find a property. But once you find a property from the legal point of view, it's very important to get a lawyer, a trusted lawyer that will help you with investigating the title of the property to make sure that the title is clean. Same as in the US. You want to make sure that there are no lawsuits against the property, that there are no liens against the property, that you need to verify who the owner is, and just make sure that the property is clean and ready to buy. Also, you need to find out that the property doesn't owe any taxes. And very important in the case of foreigners, you want to use this as an Airbnb. It is very important to do the title search with the focus that the property could be used as an Airbnb property, because in Colombia, in buildings, apartment buildings, not all the apartment buildings allow short-term rentals. The laws are very similar as the laws in the US. Most of the properties, I was not saying most, but a lot of properties in Colombia, buildings do not allow short-term rentals. And that can be done through the proper title search. That's the first thing. And then the other thing is very important is, as you said, Jarvis, you need to get a proper way to send the money to Colombia. It is not recommended to pay in the US unless there are some specific conditions that allow the payment in the US, because as a foreigners have to register the foreign investment with the central bank in Colombia, and the money should come to Colombia. If it doesn't come to Colombia the way it's supposed to be transferred, you could be facing big penalties. Once in the future, a person wants to sell the property and they want to send the money back to the US or wherever country the money comes from originally, if it was not registered properly, if it was not done properly, that could be a very nightmare, big penalty. So that's another thing that people should not do. Another thing that people should be aware of is that in Colombia, the title registration process involves several steps. And if you follow all the steps and you follow the rules, the things should be, the property, the title, or the transferring of the title should be no problems. And that's basically it. Advice, you follow the steps and get a good legal representation. And one more last thing I wanted to say, in my experience, when you buy properties in Colombia, avoid to buy pre-construction, because sometimes when pre-constructions happen, construction companies get bankrupt, and you could be facing big lawsuits and money. So that's something I will not recommend. And the last thing I will say is that once the property is registered in your name, I would recommend to do a trust so that if something happens to the owner of the property, your loved ones are protected, and same is as in the US by creating a trust. This is a great way to do that, protecting your loved ones so you don't go to probate in case of death or something happens to the owner of the property. That's it. I don't know if anything else that Jarvis you think I should.
No, thank you, ladies. And we will have Q&A at the end. And to go through the process again. Number one, get a lawyer who is bilingual. Even if you speak Spanish, you measure your Spanish. It's third thing that you put out. Like Santa Martha and Cartagena that they don't use in Medellin, that they don't use in both. So it's different. You want even when you say Medellin, you say with the J, say it with the J. So again, number one, get a lawyer that's bilingual. Number two, open a bank account. Lyda helped me open my bank account with Itaú, which is a Brazilian bank, but they have branches in Colombia. Number three, transfer your money using a Colombian brokerage firm such as Acciones and Valores. And we have Mateo on this call on to speak about transferring your funds. They're similar to Charles Schwab. They will give you the best dollar to peso rate, which will save you thousands of dollars. And they will make sure your money is legitimate before it arrives in Colombia, which is very, very important. And when you buy it, very important, you never transfer from bank to bank. You will receive from Acciones and Valores from your broker's account. Once you transfer money, a check there here, which is like a cashier check. And that's what you will use to purchase your property. You already got the great rate from Acciones and Valores. You transfer your funds to your broker's account with them in Colombia. Now you got the great cashier check together, and you're good to go. And that will literally save you thousands of dollars. Number four, do your own research. Never assume anything. Do your research. Talk to people like me. Talk to people you know that live in Colombia. Talk to people that you know that purchase property in Colombia, like myself and Mareco, for example. Go on different Facebook groups. And real estate industry is totally different in Colombia. You don't need a license to sell real estate and go to class like you have to do in the United States. Alyssa go in more detail because she deals with realtors more than me, and they don't call them real estate agents. They're called immobiliarias. So you might have a trusted immobiliaria that we might know that can help you find property, or what we always give the best advice: owner. Customer to owner. Deal directly with the owner and do my process. Deal directly with the owner the whole time. As Lyda will tell you, I didn't deal with the immobiliary. She lived in Miami. She was bilingual. I was just very good at the same time. So my process was a little easier, even though Lyda the first, she wanted me to transfer the funds from bank to bank. And I was like, because I didn't know. And I'm like, okay, let's transfer the funds from bank to bank. And Lyda said, no, you're going to lose funds that way. That's why you need to hire an attorney that's going to give you advice to save you thousands of dollars. And that's what Lyda did for me. So again, research. Avoid the grip.
Hey, by the way, Jarvis. My bad.
Yeah, how you doing, Mareco?
Good.
Oh, you're fine. We're going to have you come on just after this.
Okay.
Number 5, avoid the gringo price. First, researching the market in the neighborhood and going on local Spanish. Not English. We're comfortable with English. So we go on English language website, English Facebook pages. Go on Spanish language Facebook groups that sell property. These are more, you're gonna get more local prices that way. If you stay in the gringo Facebook groups and all those, then you're gonna get the gringo prices. So again, the process: opening a bank account, choosing a property to buy, do a title search to make sure that the property is clean. I heard a couple horror stories of someone bought a piece of property, a family member sold it, other family members was on the deed, then it got wrapped up in court for 2 years. Very, very important. Make a title search to make sure the property is clean. Transfer the purchase money and closing costs to your account using brokerage firms such as Acciones and Valores. Drafting the closing documents, your attorney, closing the property and paying the purchase price with your check de herencia. Getting the keys to your property, registering a foreign investment with the central bank, and registering the property with the title Street Department. And also, after everything is done, said and done, you want to make sure that you have a trust. You never know what can happen in this world in your life. So you want to make sure your property is completely protected by having a trust with a family member or trusted person that you love as on the trust. So that's the process. We'll go more in depth. Again, we're going to put our contact information in the chat, and we have helped many people purchase property in Colombia without any issues, without any problems. But first, I will let Mareco speak about his experience. He has a little more, funding than me, but we joke with him on our part. He owns a boat, and he also owns a piece of property in Colombia. He also plans to own more pieces of property in Colombia. So, Mareco, please talk to everyone about your experience. Mareco, you're on mute. He's working it out. So while Mareco's working it out, we're going to let Alyssa speak about her company and what she's. Mareco, you're on. We got you.
Okay. All right. Good. My daughters had to come help me.
We see.
Yeah, Jarvis, you hit the nail on the head with quite a bit of things. And I just want to the key thing for me, I guess I was, as Jarvis mentioned, I'm probably in a little bit different position than him. And the two things that have happened to me first is I know Jarvis, and then Jarvis introduced me to Lyda, and then as well as Alyssa. And I knew right away that I wanted to buy in Colombia. And so Alyssa sent me properties based on what I wanted. So know what you want. And if you don't know what you want, give the best description as you can and know what your budget is. And then for me, I was very liquid, so I didn't have to worry about bank financing or anything like that. So I also went ahead early on and set up my account with Mateo at Acciones and Valores, so I could move fairly quickly. But the thing for me, when Alyssa sent me the list of properties, like the second grouping of properties she sent to me, I saw the one I wanted. I wasn't the kind of guy who's like, well, I need to come there. I need to see it first. And because I knew I wasn't coming back to Cartagena for a couple of months. I saw it. I said, this is what I want. And literally that same day or the next day, I made an offer. And I was pretty aggressive when I made my purchase. So that's the thing. So, but if you're the kind of person that has to like go there, see the properties, you could miss out. So you need to have your money ready and really kind of have an idea what you want, and then have a trusted real estate consultant and lawyer that really knows the market, that knows, if you're going to do Airbnb, is this a good location for that? But for me, it was being able to move quickly. And literally, I think, Alyssa, you sent that property to me in like mid-June, late June of last year, and I went in August and closed. So I made the offer, signed the contract before I got there. I went in, I think the end of September, I believe, and closed on the property. So now I bought a brand new property, so I didn't have any issues with title, and as what Jarvis mentioned. So that's the other thing. So if you don't really want those kinds of headaches or have your lawyer go through those hoops, try to find a new property and you don't really have those title issues that you would have if you bought an existing property. But again, I was in a little bit different position than maybe some of you guys. But yeah, that's my story. And Jarvis, I bought a boat, same thing. Actually, no, I did come out and took a ride on the boat before I bought it. But again, I saw what I liked. That one kind of moved a little bit slower because of the guy negotiating was pretty difficult. But I have a whole plan for Cartagena, and slowly but surely I'm getting there.
Yeah, thank you, Mareco. And Cartagena is becoming a very hot market. Disneyland is actually looking at Cartagena as one of their target cities to build up their first Disney World in Latin America. Cartagena is one of their target cities. Four Seasons Hotel is building one of the first hotels in Colombia in Cartagena. So again, the real estate market is open in Colombia, especially in Cartagena. And before we move on to Alyssa, schedule to speak to us about something very important. I use Acciones and Valores to transfer my funds. They're very helpful. Every one of their agents are bilingual. Very, very important. When you transfer, let's say $50,000, $200,000, $300,000, you don't want any language barriers. You want to make sure you understand everything that's happening when you transfer the funds. Again, Acciones and Valores, just like Charles Schwab in the United States. So Matthew is going to briefly go over the process of transferring funds from the United States to Colombia. Matthew.
Hey guys, how are you? Hope everything is well with you guys. Nice to meet you, by the way. I'm basically an account manager at Acciones y Valores. I basically work from Medellin, but we help different clients to bring funds into the country by the legal way. Okay, so I'm going to speak about Acciones y Valores a bit, then I'm going to walk you through the process so you can understand what we do and how we do it. So Acciones y Valores is just a brokerage firm like the ones that you know in the States. We have been in the market for more than 60 years now. We focus the business all these 60 years in wealth management. So we help different Colombian families with their investments. We are financial advisors. And for the last, I don't know, like 5 or 7 years, we have been focusing Medellin operation and Cartagena operation with real estate transactions. I don't know if you know, but in Colombia, the exchange market is regulated and it's also restricted. So it's pretty difficult for foreigners bring funds into the country in a legal way, right? You have basically 2 options. The first option is via a regular bank. Normally, they ask you for a Colombian ID. So if you are not a Colombian resident, you will have a nightmare opening an account with them. And they also have additional fees that they charge at the moment of the exchange. The second part is using a brokerage firm or a financial institution to bring the funds here. That's basically where we come in and help you bring the funds here. The process is pretty simple, is pretty fast as well. And it's very easy to complete. Basically, the first step is just to create an account under your names, or you can also, depending on what Lyda advise you, you can also create a company here and create the account under a Colombian company. Now, to start the process, we will be asking you for some documents as your passport, your tax return, the bank statements from the account that you will be using to wire the funds, and a brief explanation or a brief presentation letter where you explain us who you are and what you do for a living. The whole idea of this is knowing you a bit more and to help our compliance department complete the due diligence process. As you know, Colombia is a pretty sensitive country about money laundering situations, so they just need to know that everything is good. Now, once compliance department give us the green light, we will be sending you the wiring instructions and the welcome to our firm. We have a Citibank account in New York. So basically, you will be doing a domestic wire from dollars to dollars. We'll receive your funds in our Citibank account in New York and start helping you make the conversion into Colombian pesos so you can start the disbursements of payments here. The account that you will be opening with us is a brokerage account, is like an investment account, pretty the same thing as a bank account. The only difference is that you won't have a card to spend. We can help you with transfers, checks, or cash withdrawals, but without a card. Now, once we receive, getting back to the process of converting the funds and everything, once we receive the funds at our Citibank account in New York, we'll start quoting you the rate depending on market conditions. Okay, as you know, the dollar is pretty volatile, so it just moved back and forward from 8 a.m. in the morning until 1 p.m. That is the regular market session here. So we can start quoting you the rate. The idea always is to try to give you as high as possible, depending, of course, of market conditions. And we take a little commission fee to help you exchange those funds. Now, once you agree this rate, here Lyda comes in again and help you prepare the declaration forms to register the funds with the central bank. This is a very important part because this is how you tell the Colombian government and Colombian central bank why you are bringing the funds here. That this is basically in case in the future you decide to sell this property again and wire the funds back to US, you won't have any issues with the DIAN, that is our tax authority, or with the central bank. Now, once all this registration process is complete, I know it's too much information, but all this process takes like 2 days to complete. The account opening process is 1 week. The conversion process is 2 days. Now, once all of this is registered and complete, the money arrives to your Colombian account under your personal name. And what we do with the money is that we open a money market fund under your name, where you will be earning some interest while the money is sitting there in order to be able to disburse the payments that you need. So what I suggest always to my clients is that in Colombia right now, we are facing very big central bank rates. So the idea is to wire the money in advance, leave the money in the money market fund, earning some interest, and then you can make the disbursements whenever you decide to purchase the property or whenever you find the property that you love. Now, the way to access the money, it's also pretty simple. You just need to send me you will be receiving a login credential and all that good stuff that you know to check your balances, to do transfers and download statements. But the website, unfortunately, is in Spanish. So if you want to do transfers directly from the website, you will need to be fluent in Spanish. Now, the other option to access the money is sending me a quick email with the wiring instructions that you want us to follow, or the check instructions that you want us to follow in order to make the payments that you need. We do a double security check where you will be receiving a confirmation email so we can proceed with the payment. And then if it is a transfer, we send you the receipt at the end of the day. If it is a check, you can claim the check at any Banco de Occidente office in the country. You will be the only ones that have access to this account. And then we focus always on service. So whatever you need, you can just call me, text me, or my teammate that is Ana Maria, that you will be meeting her very, very soon. So that's basically what we do in general terms. Whatever you need, let me know for sure. Jarvis and Lyda will share my contact with you in case you want to just get into deep with some information. And I don't know if you have any questions or if you want to do the questions at the end, but this is basically in general terms how Acciones y Valores comes in this process of investing here.
Thank you so much, Mateo. And again, as I said in the chat, we will do Q&A at the end, so if you can stay a little bit longer, Mateo.
Sure.
So the last person that's going to speak before we get into Q&A is Alyssa from Cartagena. Alyssa.
I see a couple of the questions that are already in Q&A, which is things that I would cover normally. So as you've kind of heard already with Jarvis and Mareco, is that it's a little bit of it's a little complicated buying property here. However, I tell people it's not complicated because all of us, you know, myself, Lyda, and Mateo, we kind of guide you through the whole process and tell you just step by step everything that you have to do. First and foremost, what my company does is in the very beginning of the process, when you're trying to find the property, we help you with that. Unfortunately, here in Colombia, there is no real MLS like there is in the States. There are a couple of real estate websites, Finca Raíz, Paparazzi, Metro Cuadrado. Some of them are okay, but most of them tend to be very outdated, and it's very difficult to find accurate information as far as what's currently for sale, because things tend to stay on those websites for years after they've sold. A lot of the property prices listed are not accurate, and whatnot. So first and foremost, what we help you do is find the property that it is that you're looking for, that's within the criteria that it is that you want. And we assure that you're not overpaying for it. Also, because there's no MLS system here in Colombia, it's very difficult to be able to determine as a foreigner, if you're not extremely familiar with the market, If you're overpaying or underpaying, what's a good deal, what isn't a good deal. So that's the first thing that we do, is we help you find the property that you're looking for. And in conjunction with that, we really educate you on the different areas in the different cities that are really good for Airbnb investment, and which other areas might not be so great for your Airbnb investment if that's the purpose of your purchase, is solely for your ROI. So we can tell you literally down to different buildings in different style apartments what percentage ROI that you can expect to receive on a specific apartment. My company, my team compiles data from previous owners, as well as from other apartments within the same buildings in the same areas. And we put this all on a spreadsheet for you so that you can see which areas perform better, what style apartments perform better, whether it's traditional Colombian style, whether it's something more modern, something that's a duplex. We give you all of this information, and we're very transparent with it so that you're able to make a very educated decision what the best property is for you. And as Lyda had mentioned, one of the big things to be careful with is to make sure that the building does allow vacation rentals, because a lot of buildings are residential buildings and they do not allow short-term rentals. So that's very important as well. And even the buildings that do allow vacation rentals, they all have different guest policies. So it's something else that we help you with to determine exactly what the guest policies are in the building, because that can affect your ROI as well. If it's a building that doesn't allow the renters to bring in any guests at all, sometimes that can bring your ROI down a little bit. And we really are very transparent so that you go into it knowing exactly what you're getting into. The best markets for Colombia to purchase for Airbnb and vacation rentals would be Cartagena, and secondly would be Medellin. Those are the two hottest cities right now. And then also my company, just quickly, in addition to all of the helping you find the property and guiding you through the process, hand in hand with Lyda and Mateo. If your property was brand new, as was in Mareco's case, we do furnish and design to help furnish the properties as well. If the property needed renovations, we handle that also. And we can link you up with management companies that can manage the property for you once it's closed and it's ready to be put up on Airbnb. I think that's it.
All right, thank you.
I want to add something. My apologies.
Yeah, no, you're fine.
Just to clarify, the account that you will be opening with us, I just remind me something with Alyssa. So the account that you are opening with us, you can use it as well to receive the income of the rentals of your property. So you can just get the income in your Acciones y Valores account, earn some interest in the money market, and whenever you decide, you can take the funds back to US as earnings on your properties. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're gonna start with some of the questions from the chat. The first question was what is the best way to find properties? Is there a site like USMLS? I think Alyssa answered that question. Do you have anything to add to that, or clarification to add to that question, Alyssa?
Not really. I mean, you can search. There's a website called fincaraiz.com. There's something called Properati. There is Metro Cuadrado. You can try to find things on there, but when I say literally you can find a property that was sold 5 years ago and the pricing is 5 years old, that's pretty common. So you can try to look, but no, there's not a great website like MLS. That'll be the next business.
And the next question is from Kenneth Briscoe. How's the market right now? What are you investing in right now? And then she said Medellin and Cartagena. And I'm personally looking and buying in Barranquilla. I'm doing a lot of research now. I've been researching Barranquilla for 2 to 3 months, but I feel good about Barranquilla. But again, I'm not an expert, but I'm doing as much research as possible. I'm personally looking at Barranquilla. And I know some people have told me Bucaramanga. I don't know about Bucaramanga, but I know a little bit about Barranquilla. But the hottest market now, number 1 and number 2, Cartagena and Medellin. This question is from Barb. This is more for you, Lyda. Could you please explain tax implications involved with being a property owner, specifically at a non-fiscal resident? You're on mute.
All right, so first of all, I'm gonna explain that I'm not a tax lawyer. So my specialty, I'm a real estate lawyer and an immigration lawyer. So tax questions are not my specialty, but I can give you a little bit of a general answer that should be validated by somebody who is a tax lawyer.
Agree.
Just I'm gonna do that disclaimer so it's very similar as in the US. You are not supposed to pay taxes unless in Colombia, unless you are a tax resident. And to be a tax resident in Colombia, you need to be here at least 180 days a year. That's the rule. So that's the first question as a non-resident. So if you own a property in Colombia and you don't live in Colombia more than 180 days, you are not supposed to be paying taxes in Colombia, unless there are some exceptions, unless you have a company here that you create and you receive income in Colombia. You start receiving income in Colombia as a company or as an individual, as in Colombia, then you have to think about how to report those taxes. You have to report them in the US, if you are a resident in the US. But if you are not resident in Colombia, you are not supposed to be paying taxes in Colombia as a resident. And as to renta presuntiva, I think they're talking about this new law that exists in Colombia, that if you have properties that are over, I don't know the amount, it's like, what is it, like $600,000 US about. If you owe more than that, you're supposed to be paying wealth tax on those properties as like a wealth tax. But again, if you don't reside in Colombia, you are not obligated to that. That only applies to people who reside in Colombia more than 180 days a year. Is it clear? Does it make sense what I'm saying?
I think does the person ask that question, does that make sense to you? Yeah, I think it makes sense.
Okay.
So does anyone have any? Yes.
One more thing, I think they're talking about renta presuntiva means that they assume that the Colombian government assumes that you have a property here in Colombia, you are renting the property and you have to pay a basic income tax on the property. It doesn't exist in Colombia. That doesn't apply here. That's what the question is about.
Okay, so this question is for Jules. He said, if I'm a resident but don't live in Colombia for 180 days, so I have to pay tax still.
If you don't.
He said, if I am a resident but I don't live in Colombia for 180 days, so I have to pay tax still.
So that's the thing. If you reside in Colombia less than 180 days, you are not tax resident. So you are not supposed to be paying taxes in Colombia. Because your tax residency should be the country where you reside more than 180 days a year. So you shouldn't. You are not obligated to pay taxes in Colombia. If you live here more than 180 days a year, yes, that's a different story. And sorry.
No, you're fine. You continue, Lyda.
In Colombia, it's very similar as in the US. They tax, Colombian government tax you over your worldwide income. So, and there is no double treaty agreement between Colombia and the US. So it's like again, I'm not an expert in tax law. This is the basic knowledge I have. So it's something that if you guys are thinking about investing in Colombia, that should be investigated and researched before making a decision of Colombia as an investment.
Matthew, do you have anything to add? You might know a little bit more.
No, it's basically the same thing. What I suggest here is to hire a Colombian CPA that understand both tax rules, so you can avoid being fined or have some obligations without declaring. So that's what I suggest. And the other thing is that in Colombia we have a tax reform every practically 6 months. So
Yeah.
rules changes every time, and it's very difficult to be updated with the new rules. That's why basically most Colombian have a CPA that help them declare taxes and all that stuff, because it's almost impossible to have these rules on your mind. So that's what I suggest. Just hire a CPA. I know it can be like additional cost of investment, but it's your tranquility. So I really suggest it.
I
Thank
agree
you, thank-
100%, and exactly for the reason that Mateo said, because I deal with clients, I have a lot of repeat clients that buy more than one property. And even though we know like the general tax laws right now, they're always changing. So you really do have to have a CPA to know every change as they come out, because that's their expertise. On the contrary to that, from a perspective from US taxes, there are actually a lot of tax benefits to having foreign owned property. If you are a US citizen residing in the US, but again, it's something that you should speak to your US accountant about, but it is very advantageous to have foreign owned property as a US citizen living in the States.
Thank you, thank you. So we have a few more questions in the comment. There was a guy on YouTube said he didn't like Cartagena due to the tourists and aggressive vendors. Any feedback on that? There's no feedback. Some of the minimum wage in Colombia is $250 a month. They don't have social security. They don't have unemployment security. They don't have public aid or food stamps. You gotta work or you don't survive. So if the business are a little aggressive, because they're trying to survive. So I understand the tourism industry better than most. So again, I will not let some aggressive business do anything to hurt my business. You just say a soft, fairly hard no, and you'll continue having the best vacation. This question is for Jules. This is from Jeremy. Respectfully, how can we conduct due diligence on any liaisons or experts we use, whether found on this call or found outside this call? Great question. So when I first moved to Colombia, again, you have to do your own due diligence and your own research. And what helped me more than anything else is referrals from people that I already trust and already know. Someone referred to Alyssa. Alyssa helped me a lot. Helped me understand how to get around and how to understand the directions and some little things like that. And then eventually she recommended me to Lyda. Lyda has been my best attorney so far. She helped me with my immigration visa, and she helped me. Someone recommended me to Mateo. Again, all referrals for people that I trust. And then people that I trust, that I build a relationship with, I recommend them to other people just like the United States of America. It's not a change. Everything is based on referrals and trust and making sure we help people the best way that we can. When I worked in politics for over 20 years in the United States, yeah.
Sorry, there's another way for you to do the due diligence if you decide to work with Acciones y Valores or with any other financial institution. We have like the SEC from here that is called Superintendencia Financiera. So all the banks and registered financial institutions are registered in this entity. It's a government entity. So make sure that the financial broker or bank that you decide to work with is registered with the SEC, that is Superintendencia Financiera. That will give you a peace of mind that the broker that you're working with is at least a registered one. So that's another way to do the due diligence with financial institutions.
Thank you. That was very, very helpful. Thank you so much, Mateo. So the next question is for John Cooley. What type of visa? This is probably more so for you, Lyda. What type of visas are available for U.S. citizens that purchase property in Colombia? Is there a minimum amount to acquire a visa?
Yes, there's a specific visa. It's an investor's visa based on real estate investment. And the amount is at this moment, I'm so sorry, I need to look into that. I'm getting crazy. I don't remember the amount. Hold on a second because it changes with the.
It's generally less than what any property is going to cost in Cartagena and Medellin.
Yes, it's not very high. Let me see. I'm sorry. I'm gonna look into this. I tell you in a second.
That is basically an example of rules here changing every 6 months.
Yes, it changed and because it
Because the
changes with
amount
the-
changes every time in a while.
Correct.
So that's why you need to take advantage of today's amounts, because when in any time they can go higher, you know.
Exactly. Yes. Yes. Hold on a second. Sorry.
So while she's looking,
Yes.
there's a question for more. You ready?
Thank you. Thank you.
So while she's looking, there's a question for you, Mateo, from Jules. How can I invest in the Colombia stock market?
Okay, that's a very good question. So initially we help foreigners bring funds here, okay? But then whenever they start investing here and they like here, they will also look for another investment options. As we are a financial broker, we can offer different investment products. One of those products are investing in the Colombian stock market. So we have two ways to do it. We can go directly to the market, as for example, you do on the state, that you basically go and buy X shares of Apple or something like that. We can go to the Colombian market and buy stocks from banks, from corporates, from a petroleum company, or any other big company that we have here. There is something to clarify here, and is that the Colombian stock market is way smaller than the US market, so the liquidity is pretty limited, but we still can do it. There are still some opportunities there. So you can do it directly buying a stock, or you can buy like an ETF or an index that follow in general the movements of the Colombian stock market. The other way is via a mutual fund. We internally have a mutual fund that is basically following the Colombian stock market. So the only thing that you need to do is put the money in this mutual fund, and you will have access to the biggest stocks of the Colombian market. But just to clarify, the market is pretty different from the one in US. Things here move differently. So I really suggest before you invest in the stock market here, you understand how it works, so you can know and understand what you're investing in.
Thank you, Lyda. You
Yes,
had to
yes, thank you. It just changed, right? It's $103,000 approximately, because it's based on the minimum wage in Colombia, so it depends on the exchange rate. But at this moment, it's about $100,000 US dollars. If you own a property for that amount, you can apply for a visa. The visa is for up to 3 years, and then you can renew it. And after 5 years, you can become a resident, a permanent resident in Colombia. That's the visa. And to be able to apply for the visa, you have to follow the steps, which is sending the money through the central bank, register the investment with the central bank with the form that you need to register, obtaining proof of that registration, and have the title in your name. Those are the main regulations for the visa.
Thank you. Does anyone have any other questions for Alyssa, Lyda, or Matthew?
I just have a quick comment. One recommendation I would make to anyone, and Lyda's doing this for me right now, is that when you buy property in Colombia, make sure that you have a will. Make sure that you have a way to make sure those assets, if something were to happen to you, because if your assets get stuck over there, your relatives will have a hard time trying to get over there and get it. So,
Thank you.
Very important. Very important. What I said at the top of the call, what Lyda prepared for me was a trust. Again, Make sure, again, that's the last step that I said, step 10, after everything was registered, make sure your lawyer drafts a trust to protect you and protect your family and protect your great-great-great-granddaughter and grandkids. Very, very, very important. So before we end the call, does anyone have any questions? Okay. I have, yes, this question before.
Oh, go ahead.
You're fine.
All right. So you just mentioned about the trust that Lyda helped you create. So would that only protect someone's assets in Colombia, or would it be a complete trust where if we have assets in the US as well, that would be protected or covered?
You can write in your trust any type of assets that you want, but it's mainly recommended to be used for Colombian assets, because the way it works is that when the person who is the trust, the person who gives the trust dies, then you can go with this trust, the document, and you can register that as a transfer of your property in Colombia. Or you can go to the banks in Colombia and they will give you the money based on that document that you will bring. That is a escritura pública, that is like a deed. In the US, I don't think that it will work the same way. I think you do it here in Colombia, and then when you're gonna execute the will in the US, you're gonna have to go to probate in the US and go to a court in the US, and that will be a part of the proceeding in a court proceeding. But in Colombia, if the properties are in Colombia, the bank's accounts are in Colombia, you don't need to go to a judge to get a judgment. You just go with a deed and transfer the title under your name for the property, or go to the bank and the bank will give you the money that is in that account without going to a judge.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Lyda.
So
thank you.
Just one clarification. So my recommendation, if you have assets in the US, you should have a will in the US. If you have assets in Colombia, you can include assets in the properties in the US, but it will not work as well as if it's only in Colombia.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Have to.
Okay, this question is for David. Oh, what if you buy using your LLC? Can you still apply for residency? This is for you, Lyda.
Say that again. I'm sorry.
What if you buy the property using your limited liability corporation LLC? Can you still apply for residency? Yes.
And the requirement when you create a company in Colombia and you buy a property under an LLC, the requirement for the investments are lower. It's like half of the investment. It's like $30,000 at this moment. Let's say $40,000 with exchange rates that you need to invest in that company. The only problem with creating a company and buying a property under the name of the company to get an investor's visa through the company is that you need to create employment. So if you only buy a property for yourself and it's not a business, then I don't think it will work, because as part of the process of getting a visa under a company investment is that you have to show that you have payroll, you have to show that you create employment, that you have invoices, that you operate as a company. So it will be a little bit tricky to do it through a company in that sense, that it will complicate a little bit more the issuance of a visa, but it's possible.
But I think the question is if they purchase it in a US LLC name.
Oh, okay. Thank you for clarifying. If you purchase no, it can be done, but it's a higher investment. So it will be about $200,000. It's a different type of visa. It will not be, because it will be an investment in a bigger investment. So it will not be a real estate visa. It will be another type of visa, and investment has to be bigger. It has to be a bigger amount, about 200,000 for that.
Thank you, Lyda. The next question is from Diana Dahomey. I am a Colombian citizen who resides in the United States. What are my buying options that don't include buying all cash?
I'm having problem with the connection, and for some reason, is it for me? It gets disconnected. I don't know.
I can answer this question. Unfortunately, there's no financing that's available in Colombia for foreigners unless you have been living in Colombia for a significant amount of time and you have well-established credit here in Colombia. It would be, I believe, the same for a Colombian citizen. If you're living outside of Colombia, I believe that the same rules apply because you don't have established credit here in Colombia. So a Colombian bank is not going to loan to you. As far as I know, unless Mateo knows differently, I think that it's more based on your established credit. And if you don't have established credit, unfortunately, there's not financing options.
And not also the established credit, but also your tax declaration. Banks here look for your tax declaration and what your, I mean, basically they need a collateral to pay to give you or to lend you money. So what they look under your tax declaration is that you own properties or that you have wealth in order to be able to pay this loan in case something happened. So if you are going to apply for a Colombian loan, the first step is just to start making history here, declare taxes, open a bank account, get a credit card, and start building your credit score.
All right, thank you, Mateo. Any other questions, anyone? All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for this call. This is our fourth property call in the last year and a half. We probably will have another call in January, but again, Lyda is here to support you, Alyssa, myself, Mateo, our money guy, and we have experts like Mareco and Jules. Jules did not speak, but he also owns property in Cartagena in the Boca Grande area. So again, thank you everyone for joining this call. We have one last question before we end. This is from Kanisha. Does eligibility, been a long night. She was talking about being eligible for a visa to purchase a property. Also, she talked, does visa eligibility for a visa to purchase a property also extend to her spouse and children? What about children over 18?
Yes, it extends to spouse or children, but then you have to apply. The owner of the property has to apply first. And then once the person, the owner of the property gets the visa, the children and wife can be beneficiaries. And the law here is under 18. Children under 18.
Thank you so much, Lisa. So again, thank you everyone on this call. If you have any additional questions, I left our email. Alyssa left her information. I'll give you Mattheo's information. Again, everyone on this firm is bilingual. So again, thank you, Mateo, from Acciones and Valores. Thank you for our wonderful attorney, Lyda. Thank you, Alyssa, from Double Cartagena, and Mareco Evers, our nice boat and property owner in Cartagena. So again, we're here to help everyone purchase property in one of the best countries in the world, Colombia. So thank you, everyone. Talk to everyone later. Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.